prior to starting full-time work at Meta, I interned at Meta last summer. When you're young, you feel like you have time and energy but no money. When you're like in your 30s or something or 40s, you feel like you have energy and money but no time. And then when you're older, like let's say 60 or whatever, you have time and you have money but no energy.
That's Rahul. He's 21 years old, and he's a software engineer at Meta. Yeah, Meta. In this episode, we sit down with Rahul to talk about his journey from high school to Silicon Valley. Welcome to Compile After Class. So let's just start with like a little bit of background, where you work, what college you went to, name, everything.
Yeah. I'm Rahul. I'm from Fremont, California. I went to American high school. And after that, I was in the class of 2022 at American High. And so then I went to UCLA for college, studied computer science. I graduated in 3 years and a quarter, so I just finished my undergrad in December of 2025. Took a few months of break and then started work at Meta in March of this year. And so prior to starting full-time work at Meta, I interned at Meta last summer. And the summer before that, I interned at Amazon in Seattle. So yeah, that's a general introduction, and I'm happy to have a conversation and answer any questions here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you on here too. How surprised were you when you first got the job at Meta? Did you expect it?
Um, I would say for the full-time job, yes, because I was interning there.
Yeah.
So with the internship process, the way it works is towards the end, they kind of tell you whether you can expect to get a return offer or not. And so typically in the internship, I feel like as long as you meet your goals that they outline for you, and as well, there's a project they give you, you want to finish that, and there's also stretch goals. You want to hit those stretch goals as well. And as long as you do all that, have a good communication rapport with your teammates, I feel like you will get the return offer in most places. Obviously, there are edge cases. So in terms of the full-time offer, I was expecting it, but it is also competitive because a lot of these big tech companies, especially, they hire a lot of interns, and then depends on the company, but some companies convert a higher percentage, some companies a lower percentage to full-time.
The journey from getting internships at college and then getting into a really big company right out of college, that journey, that trip, what do people assume about that journey? What did you assume about that journey that you didn't expect?
I would say one thing is maybe sometimes you think putting in the effort in terms of academically is enough, right? So I could go into high school, go into college, and just try to have a 4.0 GPA,
Yeah.
graduate with that 4.0, and then get a good job.
Mhm.
But the reality is there's more degrees to it than just academics, especially because I think in high school a lot of students are very GPA focused, which I think makes more sense in high school than it does in college. Because in college you start to realize that academics aren't the only thing that's going to get you a job, especially because a lot of these companies, when you apply to them, they don't even care about your GPA. You can choose to include it on your resume, and if you don't, it probably doesn't even hurt you. And so the thing is, you want to try to build your network.
Yeah.
Because referrals are big, especially when trying to get the first step, which is typically an online assessment or the interview, right? And so it's important that you branch out, and instead of just focusing on exams or midterms or finals, that you're making good connections, building your network so that one, they can just be your really close friends, or two, you never need to reach out to them, they'll be there to help you.
Would you say that building that network really helped you get that job, leading into the job or the internship?
I would say, for example, I did have referrals when I applied to Amazon and applied to Meta.
Mm-hmm.
That may have not been through the network that I built in college, but I'm confident that I built a network such that in the future, if I needed some sort of help, that I think people will be in places where hopefully they can help you. And so it's kind of like, even if it hasn't helped me so far, I hope it might in the future. And even if it doesn't, that network, it's just a community of people that you can like have fun with, right? Beyond just like the work and the job.
Yeah.
Would you say this network is almost more important than like GPA and high school stats, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think like GPA, like I think in high school it's good to have a good GPA because when you apply to colleges do care, right? But then now in college, if you think if the next step for someone is to go into a job,
Mhm.
now I would say that GPA matters way less than it did in high school. If you don't have to include it on your resume, and even if you don't, it doesn't hurt you. Maybe there's like a small subset of companies that will ask for your GPA, and they do care. But I also believe that there's so many companies in the world that that small subset isn't like the only place in the world where you have to go. But at the same time, that's not to say, oh, just like tank your classes. And I think you should still work hard and try your best, try to like grasp the content. But that network will definitely help you more, I think, in terms of getting a job, getting referrals, preparing for interviews and such.
Yeah. And like going back a little bit into like the high school where everything actually kind of started, where things started to like actually matter. Um, did you always have an interest in tech, or did it like just spontaneously you start like liking tech?
Yeah, I would say I always had an interest in tech, kind of family background since my dad was already in tech and
Yeah.
brother who's a few years older than me. He also went down that route. And so it was kind of what was around me, my surroundings. And I would say that in a way pushed me towards tech at a young age, like around sixth grade. Like I just like started going to like Java classes or something.
Hmm.
And that kind of just like started that interest. And then in high school, robotics really pushed it forward. So that was cool where you get to combine like software and hardware together.
Yeah.
So,
We both did robotics actually, me and Kim.
oh, you guys are on
Yeah.
FTC or
FRC.
okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing FTC in high school, and I would say I spent a lot of time there, and that really pushed it forward. And so that's why I decided to major in computer science in college.
Uh-huh.
Would you say you'd still be in the spot you are today without your family and robotics pushing you to be interested in tech?
Um, Maybe without robotics, potentially, but I don't think so actually because I can say that robotics I spent around like especially my junior and senior year of high school, like every almost every like non minute that wasn't in school was spent on robotics. And so that like it might sound like an exaggeration, but it's not. And I think it kind of maybe even if it didn't like increase my interest in like CS that much or whatever because I
Yeah.
already had that interest, I would say it developed like some other characteristics like just like pushing myself to work that hard on something and like seeing something like when the season starts it's like you're just given a challenge and then
Hmm.
over the next couple of months or whatever you build something and you're iterating on it and building like the best possible product you can. So some of the things that you learn from doing like some of the things that you learn from doing robotics or any extracurricular activity for that matter help you just build character, I would say. um, and then yeah, without my family I would say maybe like it's possible that I could have gone a different route, and it's not like they necessarily like said, oh, do CS, go
Yeah.
this route. But sometimes I think you are influenced by who you surround yourself with or who you're around, and I would say that definitely like played a role in my life.
Other than just like extracurriculars, because I mean I know a lot of kids other than just extracurriculars, they also do a lot of projects and stuff. During high school, did you do a lot of tech related? Like, did you initiate your own projects or anything?
Um, Not. I issued a lot of projects under the domain of robotics. Like they weren't necessarily like robotics related. Like for example, with a few other students who were on my team, we built an app together
Hmm.
that you can take a picture of a piece of trash
Yeah.
and it'll classified as either landfill, recycling, or compost. It was like a trash sorting app.
Okay.
That was just like a project that we started on the side for fun, but it was like under the domain of robotics.
Yeah.
And then we kind of took that one step further, and we're like, okay, this is just an app, but what if we could now put a piece of trash like a lot of people just will throw a plastic water bottle in landfill, right?
Yeah.
And so what if you put it in something and that will automatically sort it into landfill, recycling, or compost?
Yeah.
And so we actually built that out. I believe my junior and senior year of high school, and so these projects were primarily like built with other people, not individual,
Yeah.
with my teammates, but they were still like not directly related to like an FTC or FRC challenge.
From what you did in high school and what you see people doing in high school, like right now and stuff, what do you think actually mattered in high school and what didn't? Like based on what you did, or would you say everything mattered?
As far as what I did, I think I can tell you like what I focused on in high school,
Yeah.
and I would say that was number one thing to me was probably GPA.
Mhm.
Trying to get A's in all my classes, as well as taking as many APs as I could handle. That's the important part, not the number of APs, but taking as many as you can handle, because you don't want to take like the max that like let's say your school offers, and then
Mhm.
start to get like lower grades because it's just too much on your plate.
Yeah.
So I think is do as much as you can handle, and obviously that might be like different for each person, but that's fine. Do what you can and do the best that you can on that end. And then I would say focus on a few extracurricular activities. You don't need to do everything. Like you don't need to do a sport, do marching band, like do robotics, do science Olympiad. You don't need to do like everything. I would say the strongest candidates that I've seen, my friends who have gone to good universities and such, they are well rounded,
Mhm.
but they have like 1 or 2 degrees where like they're very strong. And I would say that's better than having someone who's like okay everywhere.
It's great advice for us.
For sure. So you were talking about things that, like, trying to do everything wasn't important. So, did you make any mistakes like this? Like, if you could redo high school, what would you do?
That's a good question. I think, to be honest, there may be a possibility that I wouldn't change anything because I'm pretty happy with like everything turned out. But at the same time, like I think sometimes, like as I said, I spent a lot of time on robotics, right?
Yeah.
So what if I had taken some of that and put it towards something else? Maybe an individual like project, like it could be a CS project that I built on the side, like maybe some app idea, or maybe just getting more into ML or AI, something, right? So sometimes I think about, oh, maybe I could put less time there and put it into some other domain, and that could be like, my second thing that I'm very strong in. So if anything, I would say that's probably it. But at the same time, the closest friends that I have right now, some of the closest friends, were made through robotics, and I think for that reason, even if it meant me being stronger in a different domain, like I'm still happy with how things turned out.
Yeah. And you mentioned you did CS. What college was that at?
UCLA.
UCLA.
Do you know which projects you think helped you stand out to UCLA or other colleges?
Well, to be honest, I did like the main things on my application, I guess, were academics is whatever because that's just more like concrete. The other things were once again robotics, and two, I ran an organization called Dream Big,
Mhm.
and so it was kind of similar to this, but it was basically a forum for people to ask questions about college admissions, because obviously it's a very tedious process, but it was more focused on college admissions. We had a group chat on Telegram, and we would host sessions every week. They were either informative, and these were live sessions, So they were either informative, just informing people of college admissions process, or like we brought in guests, like for example, what I'm doing right now, we brought in like students from different universities or college admissions officers to speak to people, and it honestly did really well. I think at one point the group chat was at over 1,000 people.
Oh wow.
So it was exciting, but it just shows that there's a lot of people who are looking for this kind of information, and so
Mhm.
you guys are taking some sort of initiative like this.
And you did that during your high school time?
Yeah.
Did you only have your first internships after you went into college, or did you do anything during your high school time?
During my high school time, I did unpaid internships.
Uh huh.
A company called Contic. I'm not sure if they're still around, or I think they might have renamed themselves. It was like a pretty small company set up, and they had a lot of manual testers, like for QA, and so they were manually testing their product, but it was taking a lot of manual effort, and so I worked on automating that testing at that time. So I did that in the summer after my sophomore and junior years of high school, but it was unpaid, and it was pretty like, since it was a small company and they have their own things going on, I wouldn't say like my project was integral, like paid a lot of attention to me, which is fine, but it was still cool to get some sort of coding experience.
Okay. So now we're gonna kind of move away from college and go towards Meta, the actual job.
Yeah.
What was something during the interview process for Meta that you probably prepared for the interviews, right? You probably did a lot of stuff for that. What was something during that process that you felt that you hadn't expected or hadn't prepared for?
I would say probably for Meta how quick I needed to solve the problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because the interview process for the internship was first an online assessment.
Yeah.
And code signal where there's like 4 different questions, and you probably do need a full score on that code signal to advance to the interview stage.
Yeah.
And getting a full score just means passing all the test cases for each of the coding questions that they ask you.
So now that you said that was the tricky part, how would you prepare for it now, like differently?
So I would say the code signal wasn't the tricky part, but after the code signal, you get the interview, and the interview, I don't know what the process is now,
Uh-huh.
but the interview at that time was a 45-minute interview and 2 LeetCode style questions. Are you guys familiar with these? So 2 LeetCode style questions within 45 minutes. And so that leaves around, let's say, like 5 minutes for intros at the start between your interviewer, and like a few minutes for closing at the end where like, you can ask them any questions that you have. And so that's like, let's say 40 minutes max for 2 questions, 20 minutes per question. You get each question. You have to understand it first, plan the solution, talk through with your interviewer, code it out. Sometimes you might have to optimize if it's not already the optimal solution. And so there's a lot of moving components, and you want to make sure that you're doing them all right, you're doing them all on time, because I would say they're pretty decent. Depends on the interviewer sometimes, but they're decently strict about the 45-minute requirement. And so you want to finish both questions in time. And so there's a lot going on. It can feel really chaotic in the 45 minutes and kind of stressful. But I would say to prepare for that, it is hard, because typically when you're like practicing LeetCode on the side, you're kind of just taking your time with it. Even if you don't have a problem solved within 20-30 minutes, you're still trying to brainstorm other solutions. You have some coding mistakes. You're just trying to figure them out with it. But then now in the interview stage, I would say that time pressure is the biggest thing. And so you want to, I wouldn't say time yourself while practicing LeetCode, because I think taking your time with it is good, especially in the earlier stages. But as you get more familiar and comfortable with it, then you want to see, okay, am I able to solve these problems a little quicker and quicker? Like, even if it's incremental improvements, that's good.
And I'm not sure if you said that, I might not have caught in it, but was that the only interview round, or how many interview rounds were there?
Yeah, I guess I was surprised about that. I thought there would be more interview rounds, but the online assessment, and then 1 interview, 2 LeetCode questions within that. So
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. So you would say it was more based around the technical skills then?
Yeah.
Okay. And you prepared mostly with LeetCode only?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think made you personally stand out of the rest of the applicants? Like, what do you think that you had that you believe other people didn't have?
Is this for Meta or?
But yeah,
I would say the first internship is the hardest to get.
yeah,
First internship, it opens other doors, and this is kind of like similar to what other people say about like finance. Like, the first million is the hardest to get,
hmm
and then it gets easier from there because that million that you earned first now starts putting in work to generate its own money. And so similarly, that first internship opens a lot of doors. And so I think having Amazon on my resume, where I interned the summer of 2024, definitely helped open doors for me in terms of getting more interviews. And I think a lot of times getting the interview is the hardest part because there's so many applicants, they have to filter them out. Once you get the interview, yes, it's on you to like prove how good you are technically or behaviorally during the interview.
yeah.
So I would say maybe having on Amazon on my resume helped, and also maybe the UCLA school name because that year actually a good amount of people got the online assessment who went to UCLA and applied with a referral.
And you mentioned you did Amazon. Um, what made you not stick with Amazon and try to get a full-time offer there after the next year?
I guess it's so early in my career that I want to explore different opportunities.
Yeah.
The thing is, so I did get a return offer at Amazon, but then I was like, if I can't get another opportunity, obviously I'm happy to go back there. My team was super supportive, and it was like infrastructure related work, which I thought, I won't enjoy, but I honestly did end up enjoying it. And so, and Seattle, it was in Seattle, and it was honestly really pretty city in the summer. So I'm like, okay, this could be a great opportunity. But at the same time, exposing myself to a new company kind of gives me a different kind of experience. So like Meta obviously is a very product facing company with all their like Facebook, Instagram, Threads, whatever, right?
hmm
And so I got to explore two different things, two different companies, two different workflows. And I think when we're so early, this is the time to like explore new opportunities and take more risks or whatever. And
Yeah.
so I didn't want to commit to one spot so young.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, that's a lot of good information about your internships. But I'm curious, with your actual job at Meta, what surprised you the most about the job itself?
I would say AI. Obviously, I would say AI has changed the nature of software engineers, the role of a software engineer the most. Is with especially Anthropic and
Yeah.
Claude,
Yeah.
what those models are able to do is pretty insane. And I would say Meta is one of those companies that is at the forefront of pushing software engineers to use AI in their workflows. I have friends who are working at some other companies, and I don't see AI being pushed that much. But I would say that I started work in March.
hmm
I've probably written only a few lines of code by hand.
Do you
Everything is AI written.
do you like that, or would you rather writing it by hand? Like,
Well, so like for example, in my Amazon internship and even my Meta internship last summer, back then AI like wasn't at the level that it is right now, and so it was more by hand.
yeah,
Whether I like it or not, I think this is the important thing. Whether anyone likes it or not, you have to understand that that's where the world's going, and if
yeah,
you don't try to adapt, then you're gonna get left. There's a chance you get left behind because if you're writing stuff by hand because you like it,
hmm
there are people who are using AI who can multiply your productivity. Like
yeah, yeah,
if you're shipping one feature this week, they might be shipping 4 or 5. And at the same time, I think it's important that I was having a conversation with a different engineer on my team this last week, and we felt like people are just putting out so much more code now
hmm
because AI is there, but they're also putting so much more code without like checking it.
That's true. Reviewing
Like,
it.
yeah, you just AI generates something, send it out for review, where someone else has to review it like with all these companies before like the code actually mixes the code base to make sure like the system just doesn't go down without making a mistake in the code. But at the same time, it's hard for people to just review that much code. Like everyone who's reviewing code also has their own tasks to take care of, and reviewing that much code is hard. And so it's interesting to see where we'll go from here, because like there's also AI reviewing these code now. So AI is writing the code and AI is reviewing the code.
Yeah.
We're kind of just managing the agents. And I actually saw a like PR the other day that was put out, and the PR was AI written. Another person left comments on the PR that was AI generated, and the original author of the PR responded to those comments with AI. So it's just AI written diff or AI written PR. The comments are AI talking to each other.
So clearly you talked a lot about the importance of AI, and I think that was a really good answer. I agree with all that.
And this is kind of an interesting question, but since AI is being used for productivity so much, like you just mentioned, like you completely covered it. Do you think, because you know when you're doing interviews and stuff and LeetCode, there's such a, like, at least for your interview, there's such a heavy load on technical skills, a heavy emphasis. Do you think at some point, like during interviews, you're just gonna be allowed to use AI and they're gonna judge how good you use AI to actually solve the problem, or do you think it's still gonna stay with the technical skills during interviews?
I think I'm already slowly seeing a shift. I don't think it'll be a 0 to 1 thing, because somebody just like overnight gonna be like, hey, let's start using AI in our interviews. And especially with LeetCode, you can't do that because all these AIs can just one shot the LeetCode problems because they're you put a question in and it'll just output the code perfectly and it'll probably pass all test cases. And so if you're allowing AI in interviews, the nature of the interview has to change. And I think that's the harder part. It's not saying, hey, let's let AI be used in interviews. It's more like, hey, if we're going to allow AI, which I think people will start using, it's what kind of questions should we ask? And I think when we start answering that, I think the tech community will start slowly moving away from LeetCode.
Are you like enjoying your work right now, Matt? Are you learning on the job as much as like you expected to?
I think even with AI, you learn a lot. It's just you're able to learn even more now because let's just say there's like a 10-page like document that your team has made before. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna be honest, I don't know how many engineers actually go through that 10-page document before and understand everything. But now you put into AI, understand the highlights. It makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to digest. AI makes it easier to digest and learn. AI might be writing the code, but at least from my perspective, since I'm trying to put out high quality code, I want to understand what it's doing. It's just increasing the productivity. But I would say, I think especially since I'm like a new grad, new joinee, like there's a lot to learn. There's something that you end up learning every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think learning especially is something if you seek it out, you will find opportunities to learn. Even if, for example, I'm working on a project right now and I feel like I'm learning, but I'm also branching out to other sides of the team just to see what's going on there.
Yeah.
With other people who are working on different things, just understand their work streams, maybe get a little involved here and there. It's just you seek out the learnings.
Now we're gonna move away from like the actual job and start going towards skills and like what skills matter. And based on the way that you kind of answered this a little bit, but just a little more specific, the way the industry is going right now, what skills do you think matter the most for someone trying to break into it, like go like fresh out of college?
I think at this point in time, you still need LeetCode. So I would say try to stay consistent with that because once you like get an interview, you don't want to scramble at that point and be like, oh, I gotta cram all this LeetCode now, because that's not really how it works. Kind of need to like do it over time and just stay consistent with it.
Yeah.
The day will go a long way. And one problem it is like maybe hopefully around 45 minutes to an hour max.
Yeah.
And so I think staying consistent with that is good. Other than that, I think especially in college, like the curriculum is also a little slow to adapt based on the class. Like even the CS curriculum, when I was graduating from UCLA, all the classes are like, don't use AI. Like you can't use AI. If we catch you using AI, like you'll get a 0 or whatever. Maybe build projects on the side. You can build apps or whatever in way less time now. So just experiment with it. explore.
We're gonna move away from the skills now. This part is just like a fun part we do near the end of every video. It's like a rapid fire part. So you're gonna be given two options, and you have to try your like very best to choose one. You're probably gonna be in the middle of some of them because that's the point. They're like very like you don't really know what to choose, but then you have to lean towards what you think most and just answer it and try to explain your answer. All right. So the first one, LeetCode or actual projects like real experience.
Um, I would say LeetCode. It pains me to say that because how, like, for example, like algorithms and data structures are great, but how much of that do you actually use on the job? Not a lot. Actual projects will help you a lot more on the job. But the issue is, at least right now, to get the job, you need like,
I see that disconnection too. That's something that I don't know. I just don't understand it. That disconnection between the job and the interviews. But
system changes.
yeah,
But until then, either you either have to play by the system's rules or make your own system.
yeah.
Would you say GPA or experience is more important?
College, like experience, I think internship experience is a lot more important. Project experience, because that's what's going to open more doors for you compared to, let's say, even you put a 4.0 GPA on your resume. Like, yes, that's impressive, but see it when recruiters see like things like big name companies or even startup companies on your resume, or even great projects on your resume, that will catch their eye more than that 4.0. And even people reaching out to you on LinkedIn will care more about what companies you already have on your resume or what you're working on.
Yeah.
Than your GPA.
What's one piece of advice that you wish someone told you when you were 15?
15. Like freshman year of high school?
Yeah, near the end of freshman year.
I'd be biased.
Near the end or beginning of sophomore.
I would say
This can even be like what you would give to someone who's 15 right now. Me and Cam.
yeah, I would say two things. Like, one, put in the hard work and everything will work out. Obviously, there's this balance between hard work and smart work, which I think is important. Because sometimes I think hard work always pays off.
Yeah.
And I would say put in the hard work for the next how many ever years, and it will pay off. But two, at the same time, I would say at the cost of that, just don't forget to have fun and enjoy the time, because now when I I live very close to my high school, and when I drive by, I'm like, damn, sometimes I wish I could go back to that time and have fun. Or I graduated from college a few months ago, and most of my friends are graduating in June.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I wish I could be there right now still for a few more months, right? And so I would say maybe that's even bigger than my first point. So about, hard work pays off. I would say just enjoy the you have, because you're really never going to get it back. And a lot of the people I've talked to, whether it's my brother's friends, my brother and his friends who are a few years older, or even, my uncle, my aunt, my parents, and I asked them, what's been the favorite like 4 to 5 year span of your life so far? And I think every single person told me either school or college.
Yeah.
And so it's a little sad to think about that. Maybe they passed, the best, but
Yeah.
it's how you make it. Even now, I can make it as fun as that. But when you think about, almost everyone I asked who said that favorite 5 year span of their life was sometime in college or in school, I think you guys are at a very happy time in your lives.
Will do.
Thank you. So this is two kind of related questions, but look ahead. 5 years ago, would you see yourself in this spot? And I want you to do the same now. And look 5 years ahead now. Tell me where.
Like 5 years ago, did you expect yourself to be here?
That's a better phrase.
5 years ago, I was like 16. No, because there was a lot of uncertainty at that time, as I mentioned. Like, yes, I knew I wanted to go into the tech route, but things can end up, however, maybe, you end up in big tech, which is what happened for me. Maybe you join a startup. Maybe you create your own startup. Things can go in whatever way possible. There's a lot of people who join college, intending to do a certain major and then end up doing a different one. Two of my roommates were actually like, they're like kind of on the bio side and they switched to CS. And I'm sure there's people who do the reverse. They join in a CS, switch to bio, or
Yeah.
any combination.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of uncertainty. You don't need to tie yourself down one way. And so I wasn't trying to do that, and I'm still not trying to do that in terms of my career, where I feel like I just started.
Yeah.
You don't want to tie yourself down. So I hope uncertainty is good. I think anytime you start getting too comfortable,
Mhm.
that's when you should start to seek change. And so I wouldn't say I expected to be here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, 5 years. This one should hopefully be a little easier. But 5 years ahead, where do you see yourself? Like looking 5 years ahead.
Ideally, with all the tools available at our disposal right now, I want to try figuring something I'm passionate about and pursuing that eventually. Once I feel like, I have some experience, have some capital or whatever, like build some sort of product that I'm passionate about that will help solve maybe a problem for me or people around me. I think it's important that I try. Whether it works out or not is a different story, but I think 5 years from now, if I look back and I'm like, oh, I didn't even attempt to do something, then I would be disappointed in myself. So as long as I think I try, I'll be happy.
Well, you've dropped so much great advice on us throughout this podcast, but if you had to leave our viewers with one piece of advice, like a single piece of advice, which one would you leave them with?
I came across this quote the other day, and it might sound a little depressing, but at the same time, it sounds a little cool. So I'll say it, and then I'll explain why I'm really cool with this piece of advice. And the quote is, live life like you're dying, because you are. Because technically you are. Like, every day that you live, you're a day closer to death, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that should say, like, you live life like you're dying. Like, you should work hard because you're doing what you need to do to achieve your goals. But at the same time, play hard as well, because, at this point in our times, we have a lot of time or a lot of energy, and you want to use that energy towards things, you just want to have some fun and like some useful things, do some useful things. And I also came across this graphic where, like, it's like when you're young, you feel like you have time and energy, but no money. When you're like in your 30s or something, or 40s, you feel like you have energy and money, but no time. And then when you're older, like let's say 60 or whatever, you have time and you have money, but no energy.
Yeah.
So at all points of your life, you might only have two of these three.
Yeah.
But it's important that you try to push forward and do as much as you can with whatever is available to you, whether it's working hard or playing hard. And I think everyone should do both if they're able to.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. We'll put his LinkedIn down in the description, and we'll see you guys next time.